For me, it's telling stories, making an emotional impact with your art. People seek out art because they want to be nourished in some way.
But the fact of the matter is that every person who has, financial responsibilities and not independently wealthy, they need to have a specific wage in order to sustain the life that they have for themselves, or at least the life that they want for themselves.
What I would recommend doing, honestly, if people are just wanting to go into it full time, is first start by just doing it as much as possible while you're working. If you have to cut back on some of those work hours to open up a bit more time, so be it. That's fine. Wake up earlier.
The mildly talented person that can market really well sells. But what if you're very talented and you market really well? Well, then, bam, you've got two things going for you. It's really incumbent upon you to take the rest of that slack and push it.
Welcome to the BoldBrush Show, where we believe that fortune favors the bold. Brush. My name is Laura Engelbert, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. On this episode, we decided to create a compilation of 10 marketing tips that we have discussed here on the podcast in past episodes with some of our amazing guests. These are by no means the only marketing tips we have discussed, but these are some of the most popular episodes we've had so far. All the artists mentioned on the episode are linked in our show notes, as well as the episodes in which they were interviewed. That way, if you want to hear the full episodes, they're all linked below. And now, without further ado, here are the top 10 marketing tips that you can follow to better sell your work. To begin with, this is what our CEO, Clint Watson, said about what artists should do when they have a new painting.
I think probably first, and I'm guessing, but I think most people's first inclination is to post it on Instagram or to post it on social media first. And I get it. Finish a piece, you're excited, and that's super easy to do, right? I mean, it's now with phones, as soon as you take the photo, you could do it. But I don't think that's the best way to go about it. I think the best way to go about it is to take a photograph of the painting. Figure out which of your past collectors or prospective collectors that you're close with is most likely to be interested. Text them a photo or email them a photo and say, hey, I just finished this. I think this is one you would be interested in. Are you interested in first dibs on it? I absolutely think that's the first thing to do, because you want to make those people feel special. That's the whole reason they want, that's not the whole reason, but it's a big reason why people want to connect with artists. And that's essentially what I was doing as a galleryist. I had these lists for different artists of people that were interested in their work. And I had basically previously told them, yeah, the one you called about is sold, but when another one comes in, you'll be the first person I call. And that's what I was doing. That was, in a way, that was a big part of the value that I was trying to bring to these people, was to sort of get them inside access, right, to different artists and different pieces. So I think, again, if you refer to the circles of art marketing idea, basically my circles of art marketing ideas is there's 3 marketing circles, and then your art's in the middle. The outside circle is the public awareness circle. The middle circle is people who have joined your audience but may or may not have bought anything yet. And the inner circle is the people who are the people that for whatever reason are really close to you and most like us. And so I feel like artists sort of, when they have a piece to market, start with the outside one, which is posting it on Instagram, and then email it to their newsletter list, their existing audience. And I don't know how many go to the inner circle idea, but that would probably come last. And I feel like you should work your way from the inside out. When you have a new piece, contact the people most likely to buy directly. Give them tips. If they pass, then send it to your audience, which would be your email list, people you can contact directly through not necessarily a one-on-one channel, but it's a direct channel. And then give them second dibs, I guess. And then if they pass, then post it on social media to draw in new people. The great thing about social media, it's easy and you can reach a lot of people. The bad thing is you're competing with everybody else in the world, right? So it's very hard to go from, I just posted this, to I sold it in one step. Draw them into your audience, and then from your audience, draw them into your inner circle. But the inner circle is where the magic happens. And something else I should probably say about that is, even within that inner circle list of clients that I maintained, in any given year, 80% of my sales generally came from about 20 people, not 20%, but 20 people. So if you add it up over the year, maybe I made, I don't know, I'm making this number up, but say you made 400 or 500 phone calls or probably more phone calls than that. But let's say you contacted 500 people and some bought and some didn't. But 70 to 80% of my total sales came from 20% of the people at the top of that list. And those 20 changed like from year to year. Like it wasn't always the same 20. So my point is, this is why you have to be consistent. You don't always know who the 20 are. And you can, I mean, if I sold, $500,000 worth of art in a year, or let's say $300,000 worth of art, and one of those sales was to the guy who bought multiple paintings and was worth $100,000. Like one sale could account for, up to a third of your total sales for the year. What if I didn't make that phone call? And I know it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. It's really not a lot to just contact that inner circle list. It's really pretty easy. Unless an artist has been around for 50 years and has 1,000 people in their inner circle, how long does it take to personally email, text, or call? My point is, if you know what your different people in your inner circle are interested in, how long does it really take to contact them and give them first dibs?
Here is what Jeanne Rosier Smith says about the importance of seeing yourself not just as an artist, but also as a business person.
That's another thing that I think was really important for me to realize is I have to learn to be a business person. That was absolutely not something I was comfortable with, not something I saw myself as. But once I started to realize I have to think of myself as a professional and as a business person, I had to learn how to do that. I was an English professor. I was not comfortable with marketing. I didn't know anything about it. And as soon as I started to kind of accept, all right, I need to make a living. And I really, what it had to do with was I love to paint and I really want to keep doing this. But in order to do it, I have to find a way to sell this stuff. But it was more about, if I think of it as sharing it with the world, as opposed to, oh, will somebody please buy this? If you think of it as finding a way to solve somebody else's problem. And when I started to work with galleries, and I realized if you treat it like being a professional, if you walk into the gallery and you realize you're a business person and they're a business person and you're going to be working together as professionals, then you're making their job easier. And that's really the only way that they're going to be much more apt to want to work with you if you walk in as a professional and say, hey, I've had X number of sales this year. So they understand, oh, you understand that this is a business. And here's how I can provide you with this. This is what I can deliver to you. You show them that you understand inventory and you understand organization. And this is how I can deliver this to you. You're going to make things easy for them. They're busy. They need you to be organized, and they need you to understand that they need to see that you understand that it's a business.
Kathleen Dunphy tells us about the best approach she's taken to sell her work while also inspiring us to follow what we love.
Well, not to sound too philosophical, but I would say exactly what we've been talking about, to really, as hard as I can, stay focused on the things that I love. And, it does get hard. I mean, believe me, I have been through this career and I'm still in this career. And there are a lot of external forces that are going to want to push you in certain directions for wonderful reasons, not for negative reasons. A gallery is going to say, wow, you did great with your birds, let's say. So let's do 50 bird paintings. And you go, oh, what a great opportunity. And then you get into it and you're like, oh my God, if I have to look at another bird, I'm going to scream. And your paintings show that, or my paintings show that. I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone. Or, you just get, the forces of sales are seductive. And so when something sells, in our, how can I say this? In our society, or maybe in the world, in human society, things of value, I'm putting it in air quotes, value comes from monetary gain. And so when you sell something, it has value. And so when you get that value, you want to do it again so that you have more value. But the thing in art is it doesn't work. It's not as linear as that. The good things that come in art don't necessarily come from getting money from them. So you have to find a way to paint what you love and then find the people who are also going to love it, as opposed to finding people who want something and trying to fill their need. And that's my philosophy. Now, I know that there are many, many successful artists who've done much better than I have, who do commissions and who find a niche and do that. I'm speaking for myself, I don't want to generalize too much, but I do think that when you can find the thing that you really love, and you can do that with a whole lot of passion and as much skill as you can possibly attain as you go along, it's a big world, and there are going to be people who want that. And you have to have the faith that that's going to happen. And it can get hard. It can get demoralizing, and it can get really lonely. It can get, you kind of feel like you're shouting down a well sometimes. But if you just stick with it and you're persistent with doing what you love and constantly trying to improve, I do think that good things come from that. And to answer your question a little more directly, what has worked for sales, aside from that, I do think it's important to always consider this your profession, and to be as professional as you possibly can as you go along. Fortune favors the prepared, and you have to have good photographs of your work. You have to have your work out there for people to see it. You have to be ready to jump when an opportunity comes along. And you have to be the one who's more prepared than the next guy who's got great work but can't get his stuff together. And you can. And that's the dogfight we're all in, that's how it goes. So I'm saying this not because I'm talking to you, but Fazo has been incredible for me, because it's a website that right this very second, I could get on there and change everything if I wanted to. And I'm not a computer person. I hate the computer and I don't know anything about it, but it's simple enough that I can do that. And the email newsletter has just been a huge thing for me. That's been the way that I connect directly to people who have taken the time to say, yes, I like your work. Here, send me something. And that way I don't feel like I'm pestering somebody who's not interested. They've already by default, by signing up, told me they're interested. So if I send them something, I feel like you asked for it, here it is, And I think keeping in touch with email newsletters is really important, and making sure that your website is up to date with prices on it, because there's nothing more frustrating than liking a painting and not knowing how much it costs and having to play this silly game of, oh, will you tell me, or do I have to ask? Or, I just ran into that this morning. I saw a painting I really liked, and I went to the artist website. They didn't have prices. I went to their gallery. Their gallery didn't have prices. And I'm like, done. I'll find another one I like. It's not worth the phone call, because I don't also want to get the answer that it's, $43,000 and I can't afford it. I don't want to take them down that road and then have to worry that the gallery is going to keep contacting me afterwards. So I think it's really important to have your prices on your website, have things up to date, and to stay in touch with your interested collectors as much as possible.
Here is the advice that Patricia Watwood would give to young artists when it comes to marketing and selling their work.
So you have to be patient, and it takes time. So I've been working on my own, as a professional artist. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've had a website for almost that, so you have to have a website. You have to communicate about what you're doing, and you have to communicate more than you think you should, and more than maybe you want to. You have to tell people, and then you have to repeat it, and then you just tell them again. And that doesn't come naturally, I think, for a lot of artists who are more introverted. And it's much easier to talk about somebody else's work than to talk about your own work. So over time, I've just gotten better through, frankly, practice and just will at trying to communicate well and often about my work. Whether it's, and I do have an email listserv. So that's part of my website, and you go to my website, sign up for my email list. And I do rely on social media like Instagram, definitely, Facebook, but all of those, you're not in control of your own business there, because it's controlled by the algorithm. Since I do figurative work, I've had my pages shut down I had my Facebook page shut down like the week of a big solo show because I do figurative work and the algorithm can't tell the difference between a photo of a naked person and a painting. And it happens all the time. And a lot of figurative artists really struggle with that. So it's even more important to be in control of your own communications and business separate from that. So you're not the only thing you're relying on. So
Right.
I send out emails, using an email listserv. I also try to, especially when I have a show coming up, I try to communicate directly with my collectors, or even like send them like a postcard with a small note. So I'm not going to do that to thousands of people, but honestly, the people who are your collectors, it's not for me, it's not thousands. It's like, it's dozens. And so try to stay in good communication with the people who support you, who follow you. They like to hear from you. And so that's always been part of my strategy of helping, making sure people know about my shows or follow me.
This is what Shana Levenson recommends to someone who's starting out and trying to sell their work.
I say first is consistency of the quality of the work in whatever style that you're doing, is having that consistent voice and not being afraid to reach out to people. I think I sell a majority of my work through social media. I would say 95% of my paintings I sell purely through Instagram. And I think it's all through reaching out to people, making sure that if someone's reached out to you about a painting, that you are constantly like, hey, just seeing if you're still interested in this piece, or, if someone's a collector already, typically a collector will become a repeat collector. With my repeat collectors, I always give a special discount too, because, we've created a relationship. But not being afraid to announce that your work is for sale, not posting. I know I have a lot of mentees, students that I've mentored, and they've been so fearful of sharing their work on social media, but the only way for people to see it is by posting it. Also being active on social media, meaning don't just be a passive social media person by only posting your own stuff, going on, looking up art, commenting on people's art, going to gallery Instagram pages, commenting on their Instagram pages. Being seen is important as an artist. It is not a passive career. Being an artist, we can't just sit back and wait for people to come and buy our work. We can't wait for a gallery to sell our work. We are our own gallery, whether we're represented by another gallery or not, or several galleries. We still are the first place that the art is made. So we're the ones that need to go out and reach out to those people. Every couple of months, I reach out to all of my collectors with the work that I've just created. And I say, hey, I have these new pieces. Let me know if you're interested. I also take payment plans from collectors. I want to make my work collectible, but I also know that my work is going up in value, which is exciting. And it starts small. I remember in 2014, I sold a painting that was a 60 by 40 for $3,000. And now I sell a painting that size for $40,000. So constantly putting the hours in, knowing that the more hours you put in, the better you'll get, the more value your work will create, and believing in your work. I don't know. I never sit back and wait. I'm always the person that's very proactive, because this is what my survival is being an artist. So, it didn't start off that way. It started off teaching, mostly like teaching in my other studio. And I was teaching little kids classes. I was just trying to make little money here and there. And then, and it's been, a journey for sure. And it's always, I think that little bit of fear too, of thinking, oh my God, what if I don't make money next month? Makes me work that much harder, makes me hustle that much more, makes me reach out to people that much more. You're just constantly thinking of ways to create interest in what you're creating.
At BoldBrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world, because creating art creates magic. And the world is currently in desperate need of magic. BoldBrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. The BoldBrush Show is sponsored by Faso. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal, considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e-commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day-by-day, step-by-step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's faso.com/podcast. Kelly Eden told us about her best approach for selling her work, as well as the marketing techniques that she uses.
For me, it's telling stories, making an emotional impact with your art. People seek out art because they want to be nourished in some way. If I feel a canvas was something that has a sincere emotional impact for myself, I trust that somebody out there will respond to that. Somebody somewhere will feel some connection to it. And for me, that's the whole point. Build relationships. Show people you care. In any relationship you make on your career path, show people that they're special. Art collectors, fellow artists, art galleries, etc. If you start showing in galleries, you can always be honest about your work and experience and invite feedback. So if you're not sure, what price point your work would sell for, you can always ask the curator their opinion, assure them you won't be offended and you're just looking for feedback. And also, this is a tough one, but get comfortable with rejection. It happens a lot for artists. Rejection for artists is a spicy type of ego death that can be very, very debilitating. So you cannot let it wound you. You have to put a Band-Aid on it and just keep going. Being an artist is one of the most complicated careers there is because there is so much personal passion behind our work. We are sensitive by nature, and that can make it really, really hard to not take it personally when our work is shut down. So on the flip side of that, artists can also be a little egotistical. So I would say, don't ever think that you're too good to learn more. You should be getting better every year, and you should be learning from all of your peers, one way or another. Mm-hmm.
Susan Lyon reminds artists that it's always better to sell than to not sell at all, and to be reasonable when it comes to pricing their work.
There's a lot of artists that I know that maybe went to universities and there's like I never did. So I don't even have that in the back of my head of like that their goal is to be in museums, or their goal is to have museum shows and not even deal with galleries. Or they get grants, or they do things like that. And so that is just so not in my realm that I'm just fascinated by that. I'm like, I'd love to have someone give me a grant. Wow. Okay. Or, but it's just, I feel like maybe I'm more of a working class artist. Like you just figure it out. Like, sometimes I meet younger artists too, who are very influenced by people who are very successful. And so they see those people's prices, and those are usually very skewed, very, very out of the norm, right? And it is like winning the lottery a little bit, or like an actor who gets a role on Friends. I mean, how many people are going to be able to do that? So you might not be on Friends, but you might be on another show, and those people are not going to make $1 million. So whenever I see somebody and they're like, I see their prices, oh, geez, like, I don't want to tell you, I don't want to be this, like, but that's not where your price should be. You should not be your own biggest collector. Like, you should set price to sell. Then when you have multiple people who want to buy this, that's when you know your prices should go up. If you do not have multiple people wanting to buy this image, then
it's then your prices are probably too high. And it's all about supply and demand. I mean, there's not a guarantee that you will ever sell another painting, ever.
Tina Garrett tells us her amazing trick to make a living from your work by using a simple grid system.
I think what's really common is that artists don't have any logical and consistent process for pricing. That I could say is true. It's hard for me to tell, since I'm not really following what other artists are doing on a larger scale in terms of whether or not they're overpricing or underpricing their stuff. But what I have noticed, at least with the people that I've worked with, is that there's zero consistent, like purposeful, intended process for pricing. And instead it is essentially based on something really simple, like just their height, the width of the painting at $1 rate, which is widely wrong if you are painting both tiny, tiny pieces and really large pieces in your essential range of products. You can essentially underpay yourself in a small painting and then overpay yourself in a large painting, which then maybe not ever sell. And so when this client of mine offered to kind of help me figure out what I needed to make in a year and to figure out what my prices would then cost, it sat so well with me. And I think it worked so beautifully because it wasn't based on the paintings themselves. It was based on what my income needs were, which is something I hadn't really ever considered before. All the other jobs I'd ever had in my life, that the entity that I was working for set what the value was. And I could say, yes, I'll take that job. Or I could say, no, it's not enough money for the work that I want. I want more money or something like that. But I had never really actually asked myself, well, what was the dollar amount that I would need in order to make a living? And so that question alone was just it essentially just changed the whole look of it. It wouldn't really matter what the income was coming from. Essentially, the answer to the question lied with what it is that you actually need in order to survive. And so that kind of took me to a whole nother perspective of how to think about what I should make. And really thinking that that's what any person who makes a normal income would need to make. When that client said to me, what do you need to make in a year? I was kind of almost embarrassed to come up with a number. I was just sort of in denial of like, gosh. And he's like, just say it. You know how much you need to make. You know what your husband makes. You know how much you used to make. You know it. It's okay to say it out loud. But I didn't want to dare to think that I would actually be able to make that kind of money as an artist. Like it's some sort of weird, like deserving thing. Like you think to yourself, I love doing this so much and I need it so much. How can I possibly deserve to get paid what, any other profession makes? It's weird. There's a lot of dynamics to it that kind of pull away the fabric of being rational and kind of leave all the holes where we put in our emotions. But the fact of the matter is that every person who has, financial responsibilities and not independently wealthy, they need to have a specific wage in order to sustain the life that they have for themselves, or at least the life that they want for themselves. So a mom of an 11-year-old and almost 12-year-old whose husband had to start working a second and eventually a third job to help sustain the work, the money I had been making in the past, I needed to make somewhere around $80,000 a year to kind of begin to get close to what I was. Because at the time that I stopped working in the graphic design and the publishing house that I worked freelance for, I was making about $115,000 a year. And this was in like 2010, 2011. So to make it so it wouldn't hit us really hard, I needed to make about $80,000 a year. So once I got the courage to tell him that, and he said, well, what if we pretended that $80,000 grid is actually $100,000 because now you got to cover your own taxes. And we basically took all of the things that you can do for money and divided them up inside this grid. So essentially, let's just say one cube of the grid would be teaching a class, and another cube of the grid would be painting a medium-sized painting. And maybe you could take up 2 cubes of the grid by painting a really large, expensive painting. And maybe you could fill up 4 grids by painting 8 little paintings. And he said, just think about it like that. And how could you fill all those holes to make it to that $80,000 point? And I tried it and I did it the first year. I made 83,000 the first year that I tried to do it.
Andrew Tischler tells us the safe and steady approach to start living from your work, as well as the wonderful opportunities that the internet affords artists.
What you're really doing in today's language is you're creating this side hustle with your art. So if you're working a job and you want to go full-time into art, you have to get that side hustle up and running. It's going to take everything you got in the initial period to build that body of work, to learn the craft, and to start making those approaches. Now, whether that's a gallery model or marketing it yourself or having a social media or finding ways that you can leverage your product with other content that you create. Are you the guest on somebody's podcast? Are you creating a YouTube channel? You know, there are so many avenues that we have now to be able to market our work that what I would recommend doing, honestly, if people are just wanting to go into it full time, is first start by just doing it as much as possible while you're working. If you have to cut back on some of those work hours to open up a bit more time, so be it. That's fine. Wake up earlier. You know, maybe if you have to go to bed, if you're a night person, go to bed later instead of turning on the TV and zoning out. If you're tired, great. I hear you. You're tired. Do it anyway. You know, you've got another gear to you know, hit and another level. You're capable of so much more than you realize. And so, and I don't want to be insensitive to people's situations. You know, maybe people have got, I've got a really good friend who's got chronic fatigue. Okay. Try and tell him that. But so I get it. I get that people have challenges, but it's based on where you're at. Can you honestly say you're giving everything that you've got? And I had a friend a few years ago. He was a builder. He would start building at 7 a.m., but he wanted to paint for 2 hours a day. So here he's waking up at 3:30 so he can be in the studio and work from 5 to 7. And then he gets his lunchbox and he goes to the site. This guy's painting. He's getting in, 10 hours a week painting. Which is not a bad little chunk of time. So he's able to build up some work, sell a few paintings on the side, and then he was able to go, I've actually got something here. And it's when I heard that, I was like, I could wake up earlier. I could fit some more time in. I could do that. So that's one thing that I would really recommend is that keep both going, cover your bases. The other thing that you're going to want to have plugged in is you're going to want to have a target monthly income. What does that dollar amount, just talking brass tacks here, I mean, what does that dollar amount look like? What is your mortgage repayment? What is your rent? What's your food? What are your bills? What amount are you going to have for a little bit of entertainment? Because maybe you want to go out on a Friday night and have pizza, okay? Maybe you want to have a beer or have a coffee or whatever. We got to live our life, okay? So what does that look like for you? Come up with a target monthly amount. Are you making that with your job currently? Cool, you probably are. So if you are, great. That is what you're going to have to make with your art. And then what I would do if it was me personally, if I had to go back and do it again, I would go full tilt towards that, achieve that target monthly income and exceed it past what I was working for my job. And then I'd say to the boss, see you later. I'm an artist now. And I would also have something behind me. And again, I was talking to a friend about this years and years ago. You've got to have some savings. If you're not saving some money, and it's difficult for people to save, I get that. But if you're not saving money, try and just start saving 5%, 10%. Just start putting some money in an account and then grow that account so you've got 6 months worth of expenses. That is not there for you to spend. That's your parachute. So have that month, those 6 months of money just sitting there. What would that do to you psychologically? Right? Now suddenly you can create, not from the point where I need this, external. You've got that time cushion there so you can go, I've got some space right now, I can just breathe. And then in that moment you can just go, all right, I can just breathe, I can just chill in this space. What would I really love to paint right now? We have right now at our fingertips so many different platforms, so many different avenues that we can reach people. Now you might be thinking, well, the market's saturated. No one's going to buy my art. No one's going to find me or whatever. Rubbish. They will. You also have to be willing to play the game. A lot of people will make a post on Instagram, make a post on Facebook, put up a YouTube video, and they'll put up this piece of content, which they think is great. And they'll be like, why aren't I viral yet? Why hasn't this got 1,000 likes yet? You know, I see Mark Majori got 5,000 likes on his post. How come I didn't get that? How much time did you put in? And the other thing as well is recognize that the people that are doing it really well, and I'm not saying this is me, like with Instagram and other social media and even YouTube, I'm not saying this is me, but recognize that every single platform is an ecosystem. And it has a particular set of parameters or rules that work within that ecosystem. What you do on Facebook is not going to work for TikTok or Instagram. What you do on YouTube is not going to work for Facebook. You know, you've got to learn each of these things as a professional artist and work out how to best reach those people on that platform. And then be prepared to put out content to crickets. Guess how many subscribers I had when I first started my YouTube channel? None, zero, zilch, nada. No one was there. Good, that's the way it should be. But then as you start to do this thing and as you put in years, as you show up, now granted, I haven't been the most consistent, but just because I haven't uploaded a YouTube video in a few weeks doesn't mean that I stopped working. People don't know what we're about to drop on them. You know, and we're building up backlogs of videos. We're working on really huge projects. I'll upload a video when I'm ready. It doesn't mean I stop. But how did we get from 0 subscribers to over 500,000? Now, granted, Stan Prokopenko has got me whipped, and a lot of other people on YouTube. There are amazing artists out there that are just running phenomenal businesses that have got so many subscribers. So I'm not getting it twisted about that being the most there is. But for me, I never would have thought that I would ever reach that level on YouTube. But what did it take? It took showing up consistently, as consistent as I could, for years.
And finally, Eric Our Music tells us his most lucrative approach to selling artwork, as well as why talent alone won't sell your work.
But if you create some kind of, uniqueness around what you're doing and put it out there consistently, you will become something that has a lot more of a spotlight on it. And you need to find something that you believe in, something that's very close to your soul, something that individually you resonate with completely, that you're willing to stand up for and fight. Like, we're not supposed to be people like, you see some of these infomercials like, hey, become a real estate guy or something, or, sell something that's not you. You know how quickly people give up on that stuff? If you're not finding who you are as an artist and creating something that you truly enjoy, that you're willing to fight for every day, you're willing to make that your habit, you're going to go nowhere. So, you got to really start thinking about that thing and stop overthinking the fact that you need to be original or unique or anything like that. Or unique is a word I'm using for something else, but that you got to do something so different that everybody's going to go, wow, the most original person I've ever seen. We're going to give you everything, all the attention, all the money and everything else. That's just not going to happen. You need to just think of yourself as creating a brand every day, just like Coca-Cola, just like anybody else. You're carving a niche into the market by doing what you do best. And I think the sooner you realize that, that's about lucrative. That's a longevity of being lucrative. Don't think about, a couple of years ago with the banana with the duct tape on the wall. All of a sudden, everybody's painting, versions of that, doing artwork about that. It's funny, but it's a one-liner. It's a joke. It's a one-line kind of thing. Or when a movie comes out and everybody starts painting or drawing the particular character, it's great. I mean, I'm not saying that's not something that's fun, and I hope you sell that work and stuff. That's great, but it's a one-liner. You need to think about longevity, and you need to think about building something bigger and being consistent. So that's where the word lucrative, I think, is applied best, is when you start thinking long term. The mildly talented person that can market really well sells, but what if you're very talented and you market really well? Well, then bam, you've got two things going for you. So all my talented friends, like, that are at the point where they're feeling like they're giving up and everything else, like, it's really incumbent upon you to take the rest of that slack and push it. you know, because, you know, I believe that that's really the approach in the end. Like, is it take full responsibility of everything you do every single day. I'm responsible for failing, and I'm responsible for succeeding. I take that on so that I don't blame any kind of external factors, even though they might be out there sometimes economically or whatever else it is. But there's always people out there that are looking to buy. There's always people, you know, that will appreciate what you're doing. And even if it's, you know, you don't succeed today, you might be on the road to it tomorrow.
We here at BoldBrush want to give a huge thank you to all our fantastic guests and for the wonderful advice that they have shared with us. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, it would help us a lot if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also remember to follow our Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we have begun posting the video episodes of the podcast. If you want to see the video episodes before everyone else and also get the best marketing advice out there, simply go to boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. And of course, you can find all the links in the description.